Hi, I'm Dr. Howard Rankin, and I want to talk to you today about something that is partly a pet peeve, but it's way more than a pet peeve. And what I'm talking about is sometimes when I'm talking to people, having the first conversation with them, typically on the phone, about how I can help them with their health and wellness efforts and coach them, their first, sometimes their second question is, well, do you take insurance? Now, what I'm about to say really isn't about my charges, or even my value. It's about your perception of your self-worth. What is this worth to you? Not how much do I make out of it? Because this is very important. It seems to me that many people, because of the way we think about money and we think about health care, that's what we do. And I understand it. What's this going to cost me? But that's actually thinking about it the wrong way around. The question is, what is this value to me? Before I put any price on it, what is this worth to me? Friedrich Nietzsche, who's often misunderstood because his sister, after his death, took a lot of his writing and used it as some Nazi propaganda. But Nietzsche has a great line. He has many, but here's a great one. There's no price too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. No price too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. And when we're talking about health and we're talking about wellness, that is exactly what we're talking about, is owning yourself. Being able to live life to the fullest. Being able to move, being able to go where you want, within reason, of course. Being able to interact and have meaningful relationships with all key people in your life. That's what's at stake, meaning, purpose. That's the value. That's the value. Now, the reason we don't think of that is because of a couple of cognitive biases that come into play when people are thinking about investing in their health and wellness and trying to get better. One is something called temporal discounting, which means we discount the future simply because we can't feel in the future. We can say, oh, if this happened, I'd feel great, or if this happened, I would, whatever, but we're not feeling it, and therefore it doesn't drive us. So we discount the future in many different ways. And that's really a problem because over my many years working in a variety of capacities in the healthcare, running inpatient addiction units, outpatient addiction units, eating disorders units, consulting with major health organizations, I've never actually heard anyone say, well, I'm glad I waited 20 years before I did this. What I've heard a lot of the time is, the only thing I regret is I didn't do this earlier. Yep. Because health issues and wellness issues always get worse. They are not resolved by doing nothing. And that is where the personal responsibility comes in for each of us. There are tremendous costs. I mean, if you're just talking about money, there's tremendous costs of being sick. Or, hey, the estimated annual cost for somebody with diabetes over somebody who doesn't have diabetes is $16,000 a year, with hospitalizations and so forth, and medicines and so forth. Well, even if you have great insurance, you're still going to be paying, what, $1,000, a couple thousand a year? $2,500, $3,000, over 15 years, we're talking $30,000 to $50,000. But we don't think of that. We think, okay, I can get my medicines this month, and then I've got time to get 10 packets of cigarettes, 10 bottles of wine, whatever it is. We don't think of it. And we don't see the big picture. And as a result of that, we have an incredibly limited view of possibilities. As I say, I've been in this business a long time, and I have seen yeah, literal miracles. I literally have seen miracles. I've seen a person with pancreatic cancer, actually 2 people with pancreatic cancer, have complete recoveries, which is almost unheard of. I've seen people who were couch potatoes, who never thought of putting on sneakers. I don't think they even owned them. Going from taking a few steps to the mailbox to a few steps to the end of the street to, in one case, become a competitive race walker. And while we're on that subject, if you want the single biggest thing to be liberated from pain and from many of these things, first thing, apart from your expectation, is movement. We're so limited in our expectation of what we think. And if your first question to somebody who's going to help you in health is, do you take insurance? You're not thinking about that in the most appropriate way. Let me give you an example of things that would blow you away. Now, as many of you know, I've written lots of books, co-written, ghostwritten, almost 50 books in health, wellness, spirituality, all these sorts of things. And I've come across some amazing stories, but maybe nothing quite as amazing as far as this topic is concerned than the book I'm writing right now with an amazing physical therapist who works in the military. He's based in Germany, has been, and tasked with how do we deal with, especially when we're in combat in Iran and Afghanistan, Iraq, I should say, how do we deal with these 80% of which are neuromuscular injuries? And the problem is that when those guys come to you, you know what they want to do most? They want to get back to their family on the front line and help them in every way possible. So Jeff had to create a program that showed these people they couldn't do it. Push them to the limit. And guess what? A lot of them overcame what would otherwise be considered career-ending, crippling injuries. Example, Air Force commander, used to taking his troops into combat, parachuting into combat, difficult situations. Had horrible spine injury. I'm afraid you're going to have to, get an office, a desk job, or be discharged, retire. He didn't want to do that. If you know anything about the military, you know those guys do not want to do that. So he ends up at Jeff's place. Jeff puts him through the rigors of his program. 3 months later, the guy in his 40s is running 7-minute miles. 3 months later, he's back with his family, jumping out of planes into combat with full combat gear. We have the wrong expectations about ourselves and our health and our wellness. Another example, Jeff was seeing many, many people coming in like this. Here's a guy, he's lost an eye and he's lost a limb. He's lost his leg. Jeff talks to him. First thing he does is kick him in the leg and jump on his foot. The guy screams out in pain, about to swing for him until Jeff says, yeah, but I kicked you where you don't have a leg and I stomped on your non-existent foot. The point? Your brain is making the pain. There's nothing there to be pained. Your body is working on the expectations that you have. Okay. Jeff next says to the guy, okay, well, we're going for a walk. And the guy says, sorry, Doc, what do you say? Jeff says, come on, we're going for a walk. The guy says, Doc, maybe you haven't noticed, but, I've only got one leg. Jeff said, of course I've noticed. Come on, we're going for a walk. Jeff gets him up. They hobble around. He walks him around. A few minutes later, guy sits back in bed. His first question, Doc, when am I going to be able to run? Jeff got a lot of his answers about pain and neuromuscular pain by looking at animals. Animals clipped by a car, sits on the side of the road. It is not thinking, well, I wonder whether insurance is going to cover this. It limps off as best it can. In other words, it continues with its natural movement, which is, after all, as it turns out, what you have to do if you want to recover. We need to change our expectation, and that expectation is not putting what's called a top-down perception on things, which is, well, I can only afford this much, it can only be this, I can only get so much, I can afford, these medications, and that's how my life's going to be. How about a bottom-up perception where you don't put those expectations and those limits on what is possible for you? Because frankly, you do not know what they are. Yeah, for some people in Jeff's program, they tapped out. Physiologically, they could not do what he asked them to do, and he proved that to them. But lots of others proved to him they could. We need to be open. And a question like, do you take insurance, already assumes that there's a cost to this, there's a limit. I'm thinking, assumes way too much about this process. Now, this, again, is not to do with Leah or myself, our value. Okay? We do value ourselves as professionals, but this is really about self-perception. Although I should say that I can't think of anyone that I would rather have than Leah in helping me through a health or wellness issue. The woman lost 100 pounds 20 plus years ago and has kept it off. Pretty amazing. She has tested positive for a genetic disease. She's symptom-free because she made the effort not to say, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be on medication and I'm going to do this and that's how my life's going to be. She said, no, that's not for me. What is the possibility? What do I have to do to make my life the way I want it to be? I don't want to be owned by pharma. I had a guy come to me one time. He was on 40 medications a day. And you knew that some of them were interacting negatively with others. What's in you? And I'll tell you something that what's in you. There's more in you than you think, because the human body and human beings are amazing things. Now, they can be amazing in some wacky ways at times, but the actual body is incredible, and it has a natural healing process. And if we take everything that we know from conventional medicine and tie that into other ideas that have been proven, shown to work, and have the right mindset, then almost anything is possible. Now, you might not be able to return to total full health like you were when you were 20, but you might be able to do a whole lot better than you are at the moment. And small changes make a huge, huge difference. The BMI, body mass index, is a measure of where you are in terms of weight, normal weight, overweight, obese, seriously obese, morbidly obese. And that's a useful, nothing's perfect, but it's kind of a useful measure. So let's make sure I get this right. For every increase, one BMI point is about, depending on how tall you are, it's about 6 pounds. Every BMI point you gain, the evidence is reasonably strong. Every BMI point above 25, 26 in that high end of the normal range, your risk of dementia goes up 10%. Yep. 6 pounds. 6 pounds. Same is true of other conditions, arthritis. Obviously, the more weight you carry, rheumatoid arthritis is a function of how much weight you carry. It goes up exponentially. It goes up exponentially if you lean forward. For every inch you lean forward and you're not aligned, the extra weight goes up exponentially, way more than you'd imagine. People say, oh, Doc, I got 80 pounds to lose. Yeah, you lose the first 12. Hey, you're on your way. You already reduced your risk. So don't limit yourself, and don't limit yourself with a question of money, because it's the wrong way of thinking about it. Now, hey, believe you me, I know better than anyone else that you have to have a budget and you have to live with, hey, these are the things I can afford. But, when you go to the ABC store, do you ask them before, you collect your 6 bottles of wine or 4 bottles of scotch, do you say, oh, by the way, do you take insurance? Or you're buying those cigarettes, do you say, oh, by the way, do you take insurance? Or you're in a fast food place, do you say, oh, by the way, do you take insurance? Because actually those are the people probably you should be asking, because actually they probably should. Some of the meals, I personally think at a fast food place, if you've got a huge greasy burger and greasy fries and a huge soda and a big dessert, they should give you a 30-day free supply of propranolol, medication that prevents, arrhythmia, and your choice of free statins. But anyway, I get off the point. You see the point that I'm making. I understand we have to look at practically at the lens of anything we look through. One of the lenses is money, but it should not be your first lens. Not be your first lens. Now again, Leah and I value ourselves as professionals. We value ourselves. As many of you know, I've done a lot of writing. I've written, co-written, ghostwritten about 50 books, a lot of them on health, wellness, spirituality, psychology. And so, I work on a number of freelance sites. One of my favorites is Upwork, which is a great site. And sometimes you see ads on there like this. Need outstanding ghostwriter to turn my amazing story into a bestseller and a movie. Budget, $300. Seriously? You want somebody to brand you, tell your story, put your legacy out there, and they're prepared to work for like $1.50 an hour? Seriously? Again, I understand. Somebody might say, well, I need help, but that's all I can afford. Don't look at the lens, because it restricts you. Don't look at the lens. It restricts you. And in the same way that I encourage you to think about what things do I spend that really do not enhance my health and wellness, in fact may make it worse. And could I cut back and use some of that on things that would actually enhance me, give myself a better life, more meaning, more purpose, more freedom, more movement? Yeah, perhaps I could, cut my alcohol consumption down and pay for a gym membership or a bike. Or a healthy cookbook. Where are the resources going? In another one of these rants, I'll talk about time, but for right now, I wanted you to think about money and that whole issue of where does it go? How does it deplete you? And how could it be used to help you? And do not allow it to restrict you. Nobody can do this for you. We're coaches, okay? Now, when you think of a coach, we're not out there saying, oh, you can do it, Susie. Oh, great, great, great. Oh, Jeff, you did, hey, awesome. No, that's not really what we do. We do try to encourage you, but not quite like that. There's much more to it than that. I personally have been in this business a long time. Some famous doctor once called me one of the best lifestyle change experts. I've devised techniques for behavior change. That's not really the point. The point is about you. Do you know your worth? And more importantly, do you know what's possible for you? Do you know what's possible for you.